have Gunjan Arya from OML. We have Kumar Deb Sinha from the Story Lab, and we have Lavin Mirchandani from Get Evangelized. So over to you guys. Uh, yeah.
Hi, thanks, Gaurav.
Thanks, Gaurav.
Pleasure to be here.
I
Hi, so
think
Kumar, you
what
want to
we'll
lead?
do
Yeah,
is we'll do a quick introduction.
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I lead Story Lab. Story Lab is the global content arm of Dentsu. Um, we have a very simple policy. We work with creators, we work with media, we work with platforms, and we work very specifically in the content IP space. Now, very interesting topic, and even more esteemed panelists. We were actually catching up. It was great catching up as well. So when you look at content creators as consumer driving consumer behaviors, honestly, my personal feel is there are two sides of the story. So one is yes, creators drive behaviors, and it's the other way around as well. Consumer behavior also drives the creators. And if you look at it, why and how it happens, to my feel is you look at it, there is a whole industry which has actually been formed around creators driving behaviors, the whole influencer ecosystem, um, and they are geared up to. So if you look at various genre, whether you have tech influencers, whether you have food influencers, and so on, uh, their entire business model of operational today is designed around they driving behaviors for which they get monetized, or for which they monetize brands. Okay, and how I feel that how does influencers or how does consumer behavior influence them? Because end of the day, somewhere they are also themselves a consumer. So if you look at the whole COVID scene, a lot of the content has changed based on the topicality, the sentiment which is overviewing, the change in the platform. Suddenly, TikTok is not available, but as creators, you still have to be there. So yeah, I think they each feed on each other, and I still strongly believe that as creators, we have just scratched the surface, and there is a much larger opportunity which lies. As a brand, we have a much larger play with creators. What we do as a brand, and I partly feel responsible for it also, because somewhere we still have limited ourselves to that whole celebrity mentality that awareness चाहिए media. We look at the media reach and the awareness of that influencer rather than actually work with an influencer as a partner and make them a brand advocate or a partner in the journey. So yeah, that's to me is how the influencer group, creator community and consumer behavior piece is happening. With that, I pass it on to Gunjan.
Thanks, Kumar. Um, so OML is not necessarily new to the creator or influencer landscape. We started out as an artist management company almost 19 years ago. And since then, our approach to working with artists has always been, hey, we used to manage musicians earlier, and we've always said, hey, give your music away for free. This was just about when YouTube, etc. was starting. We're like, hey, put your music out there for free. People will listen and come out and buy tickets. So we've always told them, hey, monetize your art by selling tickets to live events, and give your content away so that works as content marketing. We've now obviously reached a time and place where everybody else is recognizing the power of that as well and saying, hey, brands can work with these artists as well. And we're very happy to be on this side. We've always been on the side of artists. We've always believed that artists represent organic engagement and authentic conversations. And we're really happy that brands are now waking up to the fact that, hey, this is a good way for me to reach and drive my marketing objectives. Apart from that, I think if you look at the way artists survived, artists always survived on the back of patronage. Patronage now comes from either brands or fans that are either donating on Super Chat or other ways that, audiences are buying subscriptions or tickets to movies or even like one-time watch online. So as media vehicles now, they are seeing the same two options that all media platforms have always had, which is either sponsorship or subscription or then ticket money. And that's where we really are in terms of consumer behavior and the creator ecosystem really connecting. Laveen, over to you.
Thank you, Gunjan. Hi. We've been running Get Evangelized for almost 5 years now, and we started off positioning ourselves as a creators marketplace, a place where you come and find, discover, and engage the most relevant content creators. And this came because of our background in social media analytics, and we were basically trying to dabble around with what makes a celebrity, what makes his fan following worthy of a brand endorsement, and how does a brand do target, etc., etc. But from there, it's been a long journey, and I remember, on just extending what Kumar said, his thought about, publishing. 2012, we used to go when social media was new, and we used to sort of consult with brands, we used to educate them that you have to wear the hat of a publisher and think of yourself as a publisher and keep on creating content. And that's what social media is about. You have to stop being a brand and be a publisher. And that has extended to actually a lot of consumers who have now become creators, because everybody is a pro publisher now, which makes them an influencer or a content creator worth endorsing and collaborating with. So the journey has been phenomenal from what we saw as early days of social media to now working with power publishers and power creators. So what we see is, as a vision for what content creators are doing, is essentially they are like this compressed agency, one-stop shop. A brand goes to an agency, they get a content creative strategist, and then they get a production team, and then they get a production studio, a talent management agency, so many things. And if you now with working with creators, all of this is sort of become compressed into one. That same person comes up with ideas, strategies, creative execution, distribution also, right? So I mean, look at the way advertising is evolving. And I think this is going to have a great impact in terms of what native and mainline digital advertising is going to be. So we are bullish, and of course, adding to Gunjan's point, there are some phenomenal revenue models which we are exploring with, like, sponsorships, subscriptions. There's affiliate sales, merchandising, licensing. There's phenomenal work to be done, and there's a lot of potential in this space. So excited to be here in this journey, and yeah.
So I have a question for the two of you. What opportunities has the pandemic provided you and your businesses?
So, interesting question. I think the biggest opportunity that the pandemic has provided us is the opportunity to think and reflect, right? I mean, in the hustle and bustle of operations, we were always trying to sell and pitch, and this never got a chance to think and look at our credentials deck, or look at our strategy, or look at the product, and the whole reflection of strategizing going beyond. Because the little slowdown period that you had, beyond the point, you said, okay, there's nothing we can control. This is how it is. This external factors driving the slowdown or whatever temporary that happened. So let's make the best of it. There's no point crying over something that you can't control. So that's the best takeaway from the slowdown or the pandemic. Yeah.
So I completely agree with what Laveen said, and I wish I could have also done that. To be fair, but what has also happened is a very interesting change has happened. Production is literally stopped now from March 15th. Technically, I think the whole production business of advertising is come to a halt. And while, yes, certain brands have started creating or producing their TVCs, but it is still happening in minuscule forms, or very one or two pieces of content would have come out. So what has happened, and while this is on one side, on the other side you have that suddenly everybody is a creator. Yeah. While there have been people who have been creators, but I think people sitting at home having a internet connection and a mobile phone with a good camera has made everybody a creator in some form, and that has created a huge boost in the whole creator community. Okay, so if you see, and for a brand, the easiest way to advertise during pandemic was influencer campaigns or influencer videos, and there have been many. There have been many actually. Some of them good, most of them pretty ordinary. If I be very nice. And so that's what I think. This was a time when people should have also have thought as a creator to think how to build a valuation and ecosystem rather than just jumping and creating content every day. As a brand, it is an opportunity to understand that how do I engage with an influencer? Yes, there is so many influencers and opportunities which are around, but is there a more long-term play? Like for me, the longest thing, or for me, what I always believe is why does a celebrity has to be an annual engagement? Why can't an influencer be an annual engagement? Why can't we treat
Absolutely.
them as an actually a celebrity and create as them as their my advocates and endorsers? So these are some of the changes I would have loved to see, but I think pandemic has made us do more. I think and become more of this, create more content and influencers. And that's why I feel that I wish we could have just taken a step back and thought about our business model and the way we should do business, like how what Laveen said. So again, in that note,
That's happening already.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. We've actually done a couple of contracts with brands in India and outside India as well, where we worked with creators, YouTube creators as mainline brand ambassadors. So on one end, we've done that, which is worked with creators to take a brand through the line. So whether it is obviously with digital being the lion's share of the work, but also in terms of bringing out audiences on ground, etc. That's one. And then on the other side, we've actually worked with Bollywood stars to say, hey, you're no longer a Bollywood star. You are just an Instagram influencer for us. And that's the scope of the campaign. And I feel like we're seeing those crossovers now where brands are beginning to realize that, hey, if we are only operating in the digital landscape, then these are our heroes. Because when a massive YouTube creator goes live, then that is the biggest media moment in these fans' lives, right? It's no longer the IPL match which garners the kind of sponsorship that it does. It's these guys going online because, hey, that's all that's happening right now. So we're seeing a little bit of that as well.
So, Gunjan, I had actually a question to you and to Laveen, since you also manage the creator community.
Yeah.
And representing the brands, I feel that as the biggest challenge is see, it's great to work with the top 1% creator. It's easy to work with them, and today they're as professionals as maybe a celebrity contract is. Okay, but it's as a creator when they come into the whole expectation that today, yes, I have a voice, and I have a voice, and I have a belief on something which I strongly believe about, and I believe I have a strength in that, and they expect that for that they will get monetized at some time, sooner or later. How as a creator, how do you traverse this journey from being a creator with phone in your hand to becoming a professional creator who a brand can engage professionally? And a lot of times it doesn't happen with the micro creators or them. So how do you help them traverse this journey?
So to Laveen's point earlier, I think creators are also opening up to the idea of seeing themselves as all three things. They are the brand ambassador, they are the creative director because it's their voice, and they're the media and distribution channels. And the more they're able to look at their role from those three different purviews, then they know exactly what they need to bring to the table to make sure that the engagement delivers results for both sides, for them as well as the brand. So at least for us, when we engage with creators, it's very clear that if there is a brand brief that they need to work on, it must fit into their larger creator goal as well. A lot of the creators that we're working with today aren't just looking at brand revenue as monetization.
Okay.
So during the pandemic, for example, we actually produced short films that went up on Netflix, the Home Story series, because like you mentioned, Kumar, all production is stalled. And these are people who have managed to build their careers purely on the back of writing really great content that connects with their fans, as well as learning how to do it on the fly. They no longer need those 6 vanity buses and 100-member shoot sets, etc. So they've managed to figure out how to do these things, and which makes them very attractive producers of content for OTT platforms as well, for example. It makes them attractive producers of content for online shows because they've mastered the craft of putting content up online repeatedly, a lot of it, and great quality that their fans are now willing to pay for in different formats. So we're definitely seeing that they are becoming a lot more professional. And for the creators that have only brand monetization as a source of revenue, my feeling is that they actually over deliver because they know that that is the only one source of revenue they have, and they have to make sure that they keep that client happy. But Laveen, you have more experience on this side. What do you think?
So yeah, majority of the creators we work. Are you able to hear me?
Yes. Sorry, there was a lag.
Yeah. So majority of the creators we work with have brand monetization as their primary revenue source, right? And that's why they jump on this. And we have a non-exclusive model where we are working with a long tail of content creators and influencers who are probably very micro and nano level as well. And so as a part of our user journey, it's very important for us to handhold and educate them. And there are some services and initiatives we are about to launch in terms of handholding a person from a newbie to somebody who's a web celebrity. So what is that journey? What's that life cycle where you become? And once you are at a higher stage, probably most of the talent that Gunjan's team manages is at that high level. Then multiple revenue opportunities open up for you. It's not just brand, and you can do sponsorships. You can do subscriptions. You can do patronage. You can do tickets. You can do multiple things, right? But it's important to get there, and the journey over there is purely being true to your community and engaging the community, right? It's about building content consistently and building that community. And once you have that community, that's what is of importance and essence too, because it's distribution, right? You don't have a product, you have distribution, and then you make it available for brands to distribute on top of that, right? So that's the power you're building as well. So Gunjan, how has the journey been so far? I mean, your team has been working overseas also, and you all have been dabbling with some alternate revenue sources. With we were chatting about Patreon and other sources. So can you throw some light on that? How is your experience?
I think this YouTube super chat feature is really interesting, considering over the last few days we've even seen TV channels monetize. So when the Ayodhya event was being streamed on TV channels on YouTube, they actually switched on the super fan feature so that fans can donate for the Ram Mandir being built, which I think is really interesting, right? It literally feels like life coming a full circle. But we've had some really interesting experiments on that side. I think there are a couple of Instagram features in the same realm that will be unveiled soon. But I don't believe that India is the market where that will become the predominant source of revenue. Simply because our AdSense revenues are so low. Our price per view for an Indian audience is minuscule compared to that.
Yes, you are very far away from the actual paying customer, right? So anything that makes you at the distance always interesting.
Absolutely. But we're seeing some success on like the workshops and the online events side, where of course there is a large majority of fans sitting at home and willing to pay to watch content online. But there I always feel like we're up against, an Amazon Prime Video or a Netflix, where if you can access that quality of content and that plethora and scale of content that is so well produced, high end, etc., for one ticket price, how many of those tickets are you going to buy in a month? So right now I feel like there's a lot of novelty value around it. Also, I know Meet is a great platform, but a lot of the other shows that are happening on Zoom, etc., it's always suboptimal as an experience. I would rather go to a music festival than watch a musician perform, on like socially distanced. It doesn't have the same.
You don't want to have a mosh pit at your house, right?
I don't think that nobody wants to have a mosh pit at all right now. So I think any other form of revenues directly from fans is a long way off in a country like India.
What percentage are these alternate sources contributing, since you all have been actively experimenting?
So it
the
depends on.
non-brand sponsorship.
Yeah. No, it really depends on who's doing that, right? Like for someone like Tanmay who's streaming every single day, and when
Right.
we did the charity stream on his channel, there were about 80 artists that came together to stream for 12 hours, 2 days straight, and we raised about 25 lakhs across those 2 days.
Wow.
And that's all through the super chat feature.
That's nice.
So that's happening, but I think it's also because of the collective might of all those 80 artists. Plus, it's Tanmay's channel. Plus, it's so it's a lot of that as well. In fact, and we're seeing that across other channels as well. So Samay Raina is another creator we work with, and he did a charity stream where he was playing chess with some leading grandmasters of the world, plus celebrities, plus other comics. All came together and they raised about 15 lakhs every time they went live.
Wow.
So there is
That's
money,
impact.
but there is a cause associated with it, and there is other star power, and there is all of that.
Right. But consistency is key, right? Like you mentioned about Tanmay. So if you're a creator, you're listening to this, then you've got to be consistent.
Thanks, Laveen. Yes, pro tip for any creator here. Kumar, you were saying something about short form video versus long format IPs. Would you like to share some light on that?
Yeah, so I'll tell you what I think, and OML is actually a good example, and one of the only examples I can think of. So we see typically what happens. As I said, Story Lab, we work across with creators, and we work on the long form content IPs. We actually invest in them. We help them monetize, distribute globally, and this journey, as you rightly said, Gunjan, that see at the core, a creator is a writer. At the core, he knows that he creates experience. Okay, and why does that experience have to be limited to a short form video? Why does it need to be a 2 minute or a 3 minute or whatever be the short form duration on YouTube? Just because the platform gives you the opportunity for a consumer to watch duration does not mean that that creator has to limit his potential to only that duration. And we have been working with certain companies globally like Green Futures, Youngest Media, and we are exploring the option of actually using these creators to create long format videos which can go on OTT platforms. It can be a 90-minute episode, it can be a 60-minute episode. So incidentally, one of the formats we worked on was with this an Australian cricketer who is a traveler by heart, and he used to create videos on YouTube. He decided, why don't I create a series? So something which he called it No Sleep, No FOMO. And he said, I'll take up challenge. I will go 70 hours. In a new city, I will drop 70 hours. I will be live for 70 hours. The only thing is I will not sleep in the 70 hours, and I will tick off all the 100 things which Lonely Planet asked me to do in that city or country. Now that will launched in View South Asia as a 10-part series, and today we are actually distributing that format across globally. Now I feel that, and look at, I think you have also done with Comicstan, where you have actually moved the journey of taking a comic not for a 10-minute and one performance, but making it into a reality show, which is one of the top driver shows of Prime Video. So I think it's also time to think that can a creator also become not a full-fledged Netflix series, and then I think that is happening a lot in comedy globally. But I believe that is a journey that can happen across in other domains as well.
Sure. No, absolutely agreed. I think if you look at, so like you rightly pointed out, we have shows like Fleabag, right?
Yeah.
Which Phoebe Waller-Bridge, obviously coming from the comedy side, has now done shows like that, where apart from being a comedian, she's also written the show. She's literally the creative force behind it. And we're seeing that in India as well. So comedians like Biswa, who literally put together Aankhon Mein Ek, and then was successful. We had a second season of it. Of Sumukhi, who did 2 seasons of Pushpavati. At the heart of it, you're right. Creators are writers first, and unfortunately, that's the side that India's always lagged on. lag behind on. If you look at our film production, it's up there. Our technical skills are up there with any other production in the world. Hollywood studios match what we could do with our technical skills. It's the writing that we've always sort of lagged behind on. And what's happening with the distributed media landscape that we're on right now, we're getting opportunities to tell really interesting stories because creators are finding their own audiences, and audiences are finding the stories that they want to listen to. Audiences are being a lot more picky, and they have the choice to be more picky. So I think whether it's a brand or a platform that is working with these creators, what these creators are affording anybody who's trying to communicate with an audience is the opportunity to show up on somebody's timeline. That itself is media planning 101. You know, how do you even show up on somebody's newsfeed or somebody's timeline is what creators are affording brands that want to work with them today. And there is definitely no dearth of formats that can be explored with them, whether short form or long form.
I think the mindset from a brand point of view is to look at these guys as creators as talent and not billboards, right? Here's my video, put it on your YouTube.
Yeah.
No, one day I want to understand this talent. Don't treat them as billboards. Treat them as talent and treat yourself as a production house and make fantastic content together, right? That's
True.
You want to dive into audience Q&A? Do we have time or?
Should we take questions now?
Yeah, we can go for questions. Any questions, anyone? You can raise your hand or you can drop your question in the question box as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to look at
Yeah, question. Yes, there's a question. Yeah. Levin, if you yeah.
I'll read it. As we all know, the content creation production is much lesser today. What's the near future look like? How are platforms looking at getting newer content? Are they looking at repackaging of old content? So, Kumar, Gunjan, would you like to take that?
Sure. So honestly, I know content for a bit. Production was a challenge, and that's when we had like Ramayana and Mahabharata come back to TV. But honestly, a lot of us are also working on the home production side, which is why I was giving the example of the Netflix series that we did earlier. And I think the other thing that, because of large-scale productions being a challenge, has really taken off is streaming. I know I referenced a few streaming charities that we did earlier, but we're seeing it across the board. We have creators like Saurabh Pant who are inviting historians like Ram Charan Guha and talking to them for an hour. And we know that it's working because their numbers are only going up. I know earlier when we had the presentation from the founder of Viduli, he mentioned that now is probably the best time for anybody to start a podcast because we're all at home, right? We're replacing drive time consumption with like chore time consumption. Literally, you're like washing the dishes listening to a podcast. And given the fact that you don't have to necessarily just listen to what the airwaves are playing, but the fact that you can tune in and listen to what you want to, I think it's a great time to look at fresh content. Don't be stuck with the repackaging of old content as the only means. Podcasts are very easy to produce during the lockdown, and I know regional content is also finding a big audience at this time. I think one of the biggest podcasts in terms of number of listens across the IBM network is a Tamil podcast. So I don't think this is the time for repackaging old content. I actually think that everybody is so hungry for the kind of content that they want to listen to and something that they can relate to. I actually think it's a great time to create fresh content.
Kumar, you want to add to it?
No, I think Gunjan is quite right. So as a the only thing I might just think, if I'm a platform, if you honestly think about it, how much the Netflix library we would have actually seen any viewer. I would like to believe less than one person. So it's also a great time to discover new content.
Yeah.
There's already a infinite content which is available. Actually, this is also the right time to promote some of the content which have got missed, uh, and get connect the audience with the right platform or the right piece of content. I'm discovering a lot of new shows which I wish I would have seen long time back. It's not just always about creating fresh content, but maybe also driving your viewers back to content which is the best.
Sure.
True.
We have few
One
more
more
questions.
question.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We can take one question and then we can take it off after.
Okay. It says, how
I think
will the
Lavin would
segment
want
of
to go for that one.
influencer? Sorry. You're saying something, Kumar? How will the
No,
segment
I
of
was asking,
influencer
would you want to go
marketing
for that? I
evolve?
think there is a question.
Yeah, there's a question. I'm reading it. How will this segment of influencer marketing evolve due to the algorithmic challenges? This is by Sania Kriplani. So I think algorithm-wise, every platform will come, and the idea of a platform when they start is to ensure that there is engagement. So that's thinking like a platform. But as a content creator, you got to think from your community's perspective what engages them. If you have an insight on the community and what consistently delivers, I think you will figure out no matter what platform you are, you will be in the algorithm on the top, right? It's like either you are making content for SEO or are you making content for your subscribers, right? So eventually, if you just make content for SEO, you're making it for the machine. But if you make genuinely good content which is in demand, then the SEO algorithm automatically optimizes it, right? So that's what Google would do, and that's what any other platform would also do, like TikTok or others that are coming in. So I think from a creator's perspective, a creator is like a school, right? It's like a school or a college. Students come and go, so these social networks will come and go, but you're constant. You keep on creating content, and you'll have multiple networks and different formats which will keep on coming and going, and there'll be a 5 to 7 year life cycle, right? So you got to be that foundation, and you optimize for that in the long run.
Great, great. All right. So thank you so much for this beautiful discussion. So if we still get some questions, but we can take it offline as well.
Sure.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you
Sure.
so much for joining.
Thank you,
And yeah,
Gaurav.
yeah. So we'll be back in 10 minutes. We'll be back for the next session. Thank you.
Thank you for
Okay.
having us here.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.